Beat Break 87 FM and Reach One Network presents Love and Poetry. Good Sunday. Welcome to the first installment, the very first episode of Love and Poetry with your hosts, Sha'ria Thomas and Sean Garvey. I am the architect here, Sean Garvey, joined by the lovely and talented Sha'ria Thomas. Good Sunday, Sha'ria.
Happy Sunday to you, Sean. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And happy Valentine's Day to everyone celebrating Valentine's Day on this wonderful, beautiful Sunday. Are
Yes.
you celebrating Valentine's Day yourself, Sharia?
Every day is love day for me. So
It is.
I will celebrate today and every day moving forward.
I know that's right.
How about you?
And I am doing good. I am doing the same. Celebrating Love Day. I
Yes.
started celebrating Love Day on my birthday, January 30th of this year.
Uh-huh.
And I
Hmm.
went on all social media telling everyone and encouraging everyone that the only thing that I want on my birthday is for people just to call and reach out to others, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a loved one, and just tell them, hey, I love you and I appreciate all that you do.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah,
We need that.
absolutely. First episode of Love and Poetry, which is a little bit outside of our element. A lot of people are used to hearing me and sometimes Sharia on the Beat Break Morning Show and other podcasts that we do.
Hmm.
But what we want to do on the first episode of Love and Poetry is we want to talk to people and tell them the inspiration and the motivation behind this particular podcast. And I'm just very, very excited to be joining with Sharia Thomas to execute this amazing podcast. And it's a journey. It's not
Yes.
just only a
Yes.
podcast. This
Most
is
definitely.
a very spiritual and emotional journey, not to both of us, but to all of our podcast followers and listeners, as well as the guests that
Oh,
we're going to
yes.
be having on the show. This is going to be a journey that will be breathtaking and will open up a lot of people's minds and hearts to the inevitable. We are going to talk about all things considered love,
Yes.
sex, relationships, and poetry, of course. What's a show without poetry? What what
Hmm.
what is a podcast without poetry? I love it. I love it. And me and Shari, we come from the community of spoken word and poetry. I did not just start out as a radio DJ, radio personality, but I started out as a poet.
Mm.
That's a fun
Okay.
fact.
Yes. Tell us
Yeah,
the
right.
history. Tell us a little bit about that really quickly. Just the history
Yeah, the
of being a
history.
poet. Right.
Yeah, I actually got it from my grandfather. My grandfather, God rest his soul,
Mm-hmm.
he was a songwriter in the doo-wop days. He was
Mm.
a doo-wop composer,
Do-wop, do-wop.
artist.
All
Yep,
right.
yep.
Yes.
I know for a lot of our listeners are mature and older, so I'm assuming that our podcast followers are familiar with the genre doo-wop from
Uh,
a long time ago, way before I was born.
yes.
And he also wrote poetry. He wrote poems in his later life.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where it came from, Sharia. Just one day
Mm.
I was in middle school. It started in middle school. One of
Okay.
my favorite subjects in school is English. And
Okay.
my English teacher at the time wanted the class to write a poem.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I wrote a poem. I can't remember. I know one of the first poems that I've written was about Harlem, which
Okay.
is another part of New York that my grandfather is from. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just instilled in me as a kid to write poems. I started writing poems when I was in middle school, and it became an on and off hobby for me from middle school all the way up to now. And actually, I wanted to write poetry to get the women, to get the ladies. That was my form of
Mm-hmm. Look at
communication.
that. Yes.
That was my form of communication to talk to or try to get the
Get
young
in.
ladies at the time.
Get
Yeah.
in there. Yes.
So that's a
Slide
little bit of
between.
backstory.
Good,
Yeah, and
good.
the backstory in Sharia, you are not only a poet, a spoken word, but you are also an incredible singer.
I am most definitely. Yes, I
It,
am.
yeah.
As it relates to that area of my life, of course, I'm a therapist, I'm a life coach, and And so those are all the many roles that I play in life, and I'm blessed and thankful to be able to help people. But my self-expression definitely comes, and that was at the foundation was music and self-expression. Period. And of course,
Yeah.
poetry is a big one for me. And I started actually writing when I was probably about 7. That I can remember,
Hmm.
I started writing my first poem. I think it was, as you said, instilled in you. It was definitely instilled in me too, because my mom has always loved to write, and my dad was in a musical group. My dad cannot sing,
That
but
did he play an instrument? Did he play an instrument
my
or just
dad,
no?
he was just like, my mom called him Daddy Mac, so he was just cool like that, and he was just
Yeah.
a part of that, the I would say the scene, and just in terms of what a artist would be. But he was gifted
Mm-hmm.
too. I will say my mom did say that he wrote her poetry, but he never shared it with any of us.
Right.
So I guess it was a combination from both sides of the family, and I wrote ever since, from poetry to song lyrics, and I just like to write just
Yeah.
therapeutically as well.
As you can see, me and Sha'ria, we both have things in common. Our talents come from our family members.
Mhm.
And most of the content that me and Sha'ria write, it talks about love, it talks about relationships, and
Mhm.
a little bit of social awareness in between. But that's
Most
what this
definitely.
show is about. It's about love and poetry. Everything in life is poetry. The things that we do at our job, the communication that we have between each other, between our spouses, between our lovers. We write how we feel. We talk about
There
how
you
we
go.
feel,
Right.
and let's get into the origin of love and poetry and why this came into fruition 4 years ago. Me and
Mhm.
Sha'ria did a challenge called
Mm.
the 90-day challenge to find Sean Garvey the perfect woman. That was back in 2017 around this time.
Oh wow, doesn't seem
That
that long ago.
it don't seem that long ago at
Mm-mm.
all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And people still ask me to this very day, Sean, did you find the perfect woman? I did. I did
Mhm.
in 2018. So that was a
Okay.
year. That was a year
Yes.
after 2017, obviously, when we first did our very Facebook Live for the first
Okay.
time.
Yes.
And we caught a lot of attention
Right.
just by doing that 90-day challenge around January, February of 2017. But fast forward, I was in a 2-year relationship with a very amazing and educated woman who was such a beam of light to
Mm.
me and my life. And Sharia knows the backstory, which I won't really get in too much detail about.
Yes.
But in the middle of COVID 19, 2020,
Mhm.
things fell apart. And um, we went from being boyfriend and girlfriend to lovers to now friends. And
Mhm.
since the breakup, I have been in a form of mental health. I was dealing with mental health from the breakup. And it was just so many questions that came to my mind
Mhm.
while me and Sharia were putting this podcast together. And one of those questions were things like, why do people break up? Why do
Mm.
people get a divorce? Why is there a high percentage of divorces in this country in America?
Mhm.
And why COVID? Why COVID had to be the end all be all for a lot of people's relationships. And I think in this day and time in 2021, we still see a lot of breakups. We still see relationships end. And we want to have a platform
Mhm.
for people to come on, primarily poets, and not every single person that's going to be on the show is a poet or a spoken word artist. We definitely going to have some influential people come on the show, as well as married couples and people that are
Exactly.
in the dating world, as well as people who recently have been divorced to come on our show. and have conversations, have very enlightening conversations about just love and sex and relationships in general. You know,
Mhm.
why we do the things that we do in the dating world, in the dating scene, in the relationships, why things happen, and just ask a lot of serious questions. And let me say this before we go over to Sharia. There are going to be times where we will have uncomfortable conversations, which
Yes.
can be healthy.
Most definitely. Yes.
We we can be healthy. So love and poetry, of course, was the inspiration to me was the inspiration from the challenge that me and Sharia did 4 years ago, as well as what I've been through in my personal relationship. And it's not just only my personal relationship with who is my friend to this very day, but also personal relationship with family members that I had to struggle with and come to terms with within a period of time that I was going through a lot.
Mhm.
So let's say you, Sharia, what is your take on this podcast so far with the episode Love and Poetry? And I guess the follow up, the second question, because this is a two-part question. The second
Mhm.
question is, what was it that attracted you to want to be on Love and Poetry podcast?
Mhm. So what's my take on it and what attracted me to it? My
Yeah.
take on love and poetry, and because I was gun ho, I would say, to come aboard with Sean and us do this podcast together, is that the foundation of my existence, I would say, of our existence, is love. And what I mean by that is that love is a healing power. And without it, it's very hard to be able to navigate this life because we experience a lot of hardships beyond just, say, your relationships when it comes to romantic relationships, but relationships with the self and relationships with family members on the job, period. And so, if we don't have a foundation and a core that is of substance, that I would say is love and not the glamorified love, which we'll touch on
Mm-hmm.
that type of love, but
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love, then our foundation can truly crumble.
Yeah.
And so, love in terms of how it shows up in my life is a big area for me in terms of how I connect with people and just the elements of what love is, because we may overuse that word. I know I say it a lot. I love this, I love that. But essentially the essence of its healing power. And I really want to share this, and I'm not going to get religious on it at
Mm-hmm.
all, but because it shares and it explains love and a great definition that I want us to really uphold and keep in mind just ongoing, as we navigate this show, as we navigate this podcast, and just for our listeners to recognize love is patient, love is kind. It
Mm-hmm.
does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always persevere. Love never fails. That
Mm-hmm.
is actually a scripture. Now, we're not getting into anything religious here. We go beyond and we accept all walks and all paths of life because this is about connection and not division. But that is from the Bible, and that's Corinthians 1, uh, 13, 4 through 8. And I wanted to share that because I keep that at the foundation of my heart and of my path and the steps that I take in life, is to show that to others, to try to be that, embody it in everything that I do and who I surround myself with. So I want to bring that core energy into love and poetry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Corinthians 1 through 13. They have it right in the Bible.
There you go.
And I was just going to ask you, Sha'ria, what is love? And you explained it according to the scripture in
Mhm.
Corinthians 1 through 13. What is love? Love is patient. Love is also growth as well.
Oh yes.
I know
Mhm.
for me, being the person that I am, which is an
Mhm.
Aquarius, one of the traits about an Aquarius person is that we tend to love hard. I tend to love hard.
Mhm.
So if I have that spiritual and emotional connection with someone for a series of time or for a period of time, my love is going to grow for that
Mhm.
person to where I will not be afraid to tell that person, hey, I love you.
Right.
Even me and my friend who was my girlfriend slash lover at the time, we tend to say we love each other as friends till
Mhm.
this day.
Yeah.
So we have a very amicable relationship where we tend to know the boundaries that are set between each other and know that we're saying I love you to each other without knowing that we're not going to get back to that place that we were in 2020 of
Mhm.
last year, and I agree, love is patient, love is growth, love is maturity, love is
There we go.
just that feeling in you to have compassion. It's also compassion as well, having the compassion
Oh
for other
yes.
people and listening to them and understanding where they coming from to offer some type of guidance, some type of uh, compassion to them
Mhm.
from a place of care. We tend to tell the truth at times. Yeah, the truth may hurt, but if I don't tell you the truth, that means that I don't have no type of compassion for you. I don't
There
care
you
about
go.
you.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
don't have love for you.
Mhm.
I'm telling you the truth because I really care about you and I love you enough for you to succeed.
Most definitely.
So yeah, and then there are times where people will take love as fear.
Mm.
If
Mhm.
someone tells you, "Hey, I love you," wait a minute, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean you love me? You don't know me. You don't know my story. It also comes from a place of fear as well because maybe that person grew up in a environment or come from a life where no one didn't tell them I love you.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
They didn't get that
Mhm.
kind of attention or that kind of feeling for somebody, or maybe they've been told I love you so many times, but those same people may have stabbed them in the back.
Yes, they may have hurt them. They
So
may have
it
abandoned
can
them.
come from a great place. It can come from a great place, or it can come from a bad place.
Mhm. I would say the not unhealthy and not so good place is when it's distorted, meaning that that's the part in terms of, when we want to jump into a relationship for the passion, for the lust of it. And so we want to be loved, we want to be desired, but the elements of what true love is, it doesn't express itself because, like you said, behind it is that hurt, it's that
Mm,
pain, and associating that is distorted love because that person in their space may not understand in their level of understanding and their level of consciousness what truly love is. They've never experienced it, and so they're scared of it when it really approaches them.
yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely. Uh,
Hmm.
we also going to get personal on this podcast as well. We love to engage to our listeners and
Yeah.
let them know about our stories as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
shared a little bit about my story
Hmm.
regarding my relationship with my now ex turned friend. And so, Sharia, you are a mother of three sons.
I am. Hmm.
And yeah, and you were in a marriage
Hmm.
and you later got divorced. Without giving our podcast followers too much details, if you care to,
Hmm.
talk to us about your journey in the marriage that you was in the past.
Sure. Sure. Most definitely. I I will start, and I think that many can identify with this, is that when we experience or go into a relationship, sometimes we're looking to be fulfilled. And so I had this very distorted concept growing up that I was not complete without my soulmate. That,
Mm,
having someone that was, I could just really connect with in all levels. And so, with that, and I say distorted because it was a lot of pressure in terms of putting that on the other person and myself. And so I carried that into my relationship, looking for a a connection that will help to complete me. That in meeting someone, this love that I have would complete me. And it didn't, but I did love him and he loved me too. But there was so many growth. There's so much growth in that relationship, and it helped me to love and understand truly what love is. And so, really, what I see it as is a development of first, when we say self love, that's a little, I don't want to say watered down, but really, self love is about self mastery. And to master the self is to understand the self, to be compassionate. Like I love that you said compassion and understanding and forgiveness. And that's really the key that it takes to have a healthy type of love, uh, true, true love. And so true love has to come from within. But when we try to get fulfilled from a relationship in terms of someone else, that can't be met. One big thing that I knew in my marriage that I started to develop was he could not make me happy, and I had
mm,
to make myself happy. I had to make myself happy. He had to make himself happy.
mm.
And in that place of learning that, that was communicated, that was discussed, that was conveyed. But in his wounds and his own growth and in my own growth, we started to grow apart. And that happens in relationships.
Mhm.
One thing that, I learned is that all relationships aren't meant to last. Sometimes they can just be a learning lesson. Sometimes they can just
Mm.
be an experience to where it just mirrors where we are so that we can grow, so that we
Yeah,
can develop to the next level. So I'm thankful for my experience with, and it brought me beautiful children and allowed me to become a mother. And that's a phenomenal experience to nurture someone, another being into this life. So I'm so thankful that that relationship brought me that.
yeah.
I don't regret it. I don't regret it from start to finish because when I did love and how I knew love, I gave it. And when I
Mhm.
learned that in ways that I was loving may have been limited, I gave it. When I learned that I needed to be more unconditional, I gave that too. And so there's no hard feelings on my part. And it's just a part of my journey in terms of what love is all about. And really, it's all about, for me, I feel that that's what we're here for, is us to really just bring unity in terms of so much ugly and hatred and division and this is your opinion, this is mine, this is right or
Right.
wrong, instead of unity,
Yeah,
understanding, compassion, forgiveness. And those elements are what are significant and really can hold us and bind us.
yeah.
So that's been a part of my journey.
I want to revisit something that you said just a few moments ago,
Okay.
and it
Hmm.
ties into one of the relationships that I've seen unfold. Not just only me,
Mm.
but many have seen unfold last year. and that
Mhm.
was the situation between Will Smith and Jada
Mm.
Pickett Smith,
Mhm.
the entanglement, which
Mm.
was the word of 2020,
Yes.
entanglement. Everything was an entanglement.
Right.
But
Right.
in the home of Will and Jada, we've
Mhm.
seen it on television and everything that unfolded when Jada Pickett Smith came out and responded to August Alsina's uh, interview
Mhm.
with Angela Yee prior to the Red Table Talk conversation between Jada Pickett Smith and Will Smith that Jada and August had a relationship. They had a certain type of relationship,
Mhm.
which of course consisted of sexual moments between the
Mhm.
two.
Right.
And this was around the time when Jada Pickett Smith and Will Smith were separated. They were not divorced,
Mm.
even though they were
Mhm.
on their way to
Yes.
getting a divorce. They were separated in
Right.
their marriage. And there was one thing that Jada said, whether it was in an interview or on a different platform. She said that, I Will cannot make me happy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Will cannot make me happy,
Yes.
and Will did everything he
Mhm.
could
Yes.
to make her happy.
Right.
He did
Right.
everything he could to make her happy. And she said something to the effect of, nobody in a relationship can make you happy. You have to make yourself happy.
There you go. It's so true. Yes.
And so those are one of the conversations that we got to have on love and poetry. What
Mhm.
makes you happy in a relationship? Everything could go
Mm.
oh, okay. Everything can go right. He can do everything for you. She can do everything for you, but you're still not happy.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
in most relationships, we see it happen where the significant other, the husband or the wife, the boyfriend or the girlfriend, go outside the relationship and engage in some stuff, or they go with
Extramarital
somebody else.
affairs is what they're
Extramarital, yeah,
called.
extramarital affairs, right?
Yes.
Or they go out and get a side piece. They go out and get a side
Mhm.
chick or a side dude. If it's a non-marriage relationship, if it's
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
a relationship between two adults and the person in the relationship is not happy.
Right.
They
Yes.
they doing everything that you thinking that I'm in this relationship. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do as a significant other. We hardly have any arguments, and what have you. But this person did what this person did because they felt like they needed to be totally complete, or they felt like they need to be more happier than what they
Mhm.
have at home.
Mhm. Yes. Right.
So that's one of the things we gotta talk about in love and poetry. Um, because that situation between Will and Jada,
Mhm.
to me, it really made me so scared,
Mm.
Sha'ria. It
Okay.
made me so scared about ever wanting to get into a relationship or
Okay.
into a marriage. Because I kind of underestimate myself at times, and I say to myself, what if I'm not good enough for this person?
Yeah. Mhm.
What if I cannot make this person happy? We hear the theme or the phrase, happy life, happy wife.
Mm. Right. Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
I never been married before. Sha'ria has,
Mhm.
and it's like, based on what I've been told that, hey, Sean, a relationship takes a lot of work. It's like a
Yes.
job.
It is.
It's like a nine to
Mhm.
five job.
Yep.
There's
Mhm.
sacrifices. You have to do whatever you can to make your partner happy all the time. And we've been told
We've
so
been
much of that,
sold
Sharia.
we've been sold that, I would say,
Yeah.
because that's a false concept, and that's why I said I came in with it with a distorted perception. We as a people can identify with that we're supposed to make each other happy. No, no.
Mm.
No, no, no. And if we go into it with that perception and we're thinking that, then we will be highly disappointed because no one outside of ourselves can make us feel whole. No one outside
Mhm.
of ourselves can make us feel good enough. No one outside of ourselves can make us feel worthy or deserving enough. But what we can do when we are in an unhealed place is we project that onto our partner. Fill me up. I need this. I need that. And that is unhealthy. And so I've
Yeah.
seen that side of it being unhealthy, and I've seen the healthy side. And that's why I'm so thankful we're doing this show, and that, I help my clients. I have couples that I help. So that's the lead in, is that you have to make your own self happy, but it's being able to find the inner mix of what is a healthy and a harmonious relationship, and that does take work. That does take effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
For those that are just tuning in, this is the first episode of Love and Poetry with Sha'ria Thomas and yours truly, Sean Garvey. This is the introduction. We're talking about what motivated us to do this podcast. This
Mm-hmm.
has been a project, an idea project that was just up in the air,
Yep.
which me and Sha'ria talked about on and off. And now we have the opportunity to release our very first episode on Valentine's Day. This is
Yay.
just it's perfect timing. It's
It
it's
is.
perfect timing. We also have to take into consideration and to account, Sharia, that there are
Uh-huh.
people on Valentine's Day that are celebrating Valentine's Day
Mm-hmm.
alone,
Yes.
single,
Very true. Very
and I'm
true.
one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
How is that,
that
Sean? Tell us, how do you celebrate
uh,
Valentine's Day as a
it's
single man?
it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different than the last 2 years that I was with my ex. Because
Mm-hmm.
around Valentine's Day, we would do something. We would go out, we would do something, we would spend time with each other. Not that we haven't or we never spent time with each other before or after Valentine's Day,
Mm-hmm.
but Valentine's Day was just that moment for us to remind ourselves how much we love each other
Yeah.
without buying each other things, without having to do this and having to do that, because we know the commercial aspect of Valentine's Day. And I do
Yes.
agree with what, to your point earlier in the conversation, that Valentine's Day, or if you want to call it Love Day, is 24/7, 365 a year. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just only once a month or that one particular day in February. But it was just that moment of reminding how much we love each other and how we need to continue to keep the momentum going after
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's Day.
Most
But I will
definitely.
say it is a very different year. I remember the movie The Photograph, best
Okay.
movie of 2020. I will put that in my top five black romantic films
Mm-hmm.
of all time. It's in my top five. And that was one of the last movies that me and my ex saw last year around Valentine's Day.
Interesting.
The Photograph. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's a very terrific movie with Issa Rae and the Keith Stanfield. Um, but one thing about that movie is
Mm-hmm.
that parts of that movie, Sharia, reminded us of how our relationship was.
Mm. Okay.
Not giving much of the movie away if you still haven't seen it, but there was a part in the movie where Issa Rae's character mother, she wanted more
Mm.
than than the man that she was with. They loved each other. They were in love with each other so much, but she wanted to go to New York and
Mm-hmm.
be a professional photographer. Her
Mm-hmm.
love interest, her boyfriend, wanted to stay down in the South and continue on with doing his job because there wasn't anything up north for him to do. I mean, of
Mm-hmm.
course, he wanted her to pursue her dreams, but she ended up going. She ended up choosing her career over the love of her life.
Mm.
because she wanted more
Right.
and she wanted to be happy. And there was one line in the scene where the guy said to her, I don't know how to make you happy.
Mm. Wow.
I don't know
Yep.
how to make you happy. So it
Because it
ties into
wasn't on
what,
him.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and so to paraphrase what he said in that movie, no matter what I do, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what I do, giving you flowers every weekend, making you food, cooking you food, taking you out, treating you like a queen, no matter what I do, I never find out how to make you happy. That's what the line was. I
Mm.
never knew how to make you happy.
I never knew how to make you happy. Ah,
Yeah.
yes. I would say if we could create a reframe, because we know that that is the essence of a just the foundation, the concept. I'm going to call it the love concept that we all are programmed into believing that we have to make each other happy. And obviously, we are dispelling that myth. We are letting that go and really bringing out truly love in terms of the essence of what it is. And if we look at a partnership in terms of a healthy relationship, you're partnering with each other. You're bringing something to the table from yourself and the other person to build a partnership. Like even a romantic relationship, if we look at it in terms of a partnership, then we're willing to see I'm sharing my life with you
Mm,
and I'm sharing my life with you. Just like you gave the example of that movie, if she wanted more, she wasn't willing to share her life with him. It wasn't enough for her because she wasn't willing to compromise, bend, and be flexible to make that relationship grow. And maybe it didn't need to. Again, that probably wasn't its purpose. But what I like to see and what I keep in mind for myself at this next phase of my life and this next stage in terms of connecting with others in relationships, whether it's romantic, my children, my mom, dad, siblings, whatever it may be, you, because I love you too, Sean,
love
is
you back.
yes, it's about sharing. It's not the selfishness of, well, what am I going to get from you? Or yes, we do have needs. We have needs in relationships, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also
Absolutely.
the giving and receiving. So having that nice flow and learning that flow, woo, getting there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a self discovery. I would say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the conversations we definitely are going to have right here on Love and Poetry. Let's take a moment, Sha'ria, and talk about the poets
Oh,
we're going to
yes.
have on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We got poets, we got people who we knew from. I remember being introduced to the poetry scene back in, I want to say 2004,
Okay.
when I was at another radio station in Atlanta. And I was introduced to the poetry scene while I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
There was a place, well, let me not say was, because it is still established in Atlanta to this very day, and is a very iconic place in Atlanta.
Mm.
It's called Cafe 290.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Cafe 290.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my ATLians or out of towners, if you're familiar with Cafe 290, that is the
That
spot
is.
for all things considered entertainment as well as jazz and poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was introduced to that world through a gentleman by the name of Dale Wayne, who, of course, his stage name was His Story, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And him and his wife at the time established a showcase on Tuesday nights before I went to the radio station. On Tuesday nights, they hosted this poetry showcase where they bring up poets, established and even the ones that were no name. If they wanted to go on the stage and rock the mic, they could.
Mhm.
But I was just so blessed to be a part of that community of coming in to Cafe 290 and bless the mic a few times on a few occasions. But I also did some video work for the event every other Tuesday night. I
Okay.
was just more so of the behind the scenes guy, making sure that I videotape the content that was
Mhm.
being produced out there. Um, but one of the things that I loved about the most of being a part of that community was just the love. It was just the love for artists to create
Right.
and to express how they really feel about relationships, how they feel about dating, and how they feel about each other or one another. And I would say that too, Sha'ria, is what also inspired me to help put together this Love and Poetry podcast.
Mm.
This, and I know one of the other places in Atlanta that a lot of people think of is Apache Cafe.
Oh
I
yes,
didn't go to
most
Apache
definitely.
Cafe a year. I went to Apache Cafe a few times, but
Okay.
that was actually after Cafe 290. So it was Cafe 290 first, and then Apache Cafe a year or two later.
Yes. I'm
Yeah,
familiar with the same
that's
scene.
another fun fact for love and poetry. So my question to you, Sharia, and in a
Mhm.
few moments, we gotta break out your performance. You're gonna do a little bit of spoken word for our listening audience and our viewers
Ooh.
as well.
Yeah.
What do you want people to take away from love and poetry? And I will give the audience and yourself my answer to that question.
What would I what do I want the people to take away from love and poetry? What I want people to take away from love and poetry is some insight, some gaining some awareness, some entertainment, and just a connection and relating to what we're able to provide. I'm going to take it on my end is I bring my own personal approach to it and my own personal experience, but then I also bring the expertise in terms of what truly is a
Mm-hmm.
healthy relationship. And so combining that along with just the expression of love in all areas. Love in all areas, meaning from beyond just romantic relationships and romantic love, but self love, self knowledge, self awareness, and the impact of unconditional love. Because, overall, people, we may say, I want love unconditionally or I love unconditionally, but really that foundation of what unconditional love is and just being the epitome of it. And I hope that we are able
Mm.
to explore all those dynamics of what love is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
The thing I want people to take away from this podcast is, what can I do to be a better person, to be a better mate to my better half? I want to hear solutions.
Mm,
We're not gonna only talk about the problems that we experience in our dating life or
yep.
in our relationships or in our marriages, but we also want people to take away solutions on how
Most
they can
definitely.
be a better person, how they can be a better husband, how they can be a better lover, how they can
Love it.
be a better boyfriend.
Mhm.
Most of us were not taught on
Mhm.
how to keep a relationship ongoing or how to
Exactly.
stay in a marriage. It's kind of like or you learn as you go along in your
Right.
life.
Right.
Being that I come from a single parent household, I didn't know much about how to maintain a
Mm.
relationship or what it would take to keep a person, to keep a woman that
Mhm.
could potentially be your wife. We look at television sitcoms, family
Mhm.
sitcoms, and movies, and we think that, oh, okay, so in order to maintain a relationship, You just have to keep doing the same thing you do every day. You come home from work, you say, "Hey, honey, I'm home. What's for dinner?"
Right.
You sleep, and you go through your different scenarios with your spouse. You sit down, you communicate, you work it out, and then that's it. You go on the next day and you do the same thing over and over and over again. But there's a process to it.
Mhm.
Nowadays, there's therapy. There's therapy counseling for
Yep.
couples, for
Exactly.
not just only married couples, but for people that are in 2 to 3 or 4 year relationships.
Exactly. Mhm.
There's therapy sessions. There's a
And
couple
even
retreat.
I will
Hmm.
even say even intentional dating. I've had clients come to me when they are just in the dating arena, but they're intentionally doing it, meaning that they have the intent to actually have a long-term partnership. So,
Mm,
yes, it's from the beginning stages all the way to a prosperous long-term marriage, most definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that we want to take away from our listeners is what can I do to be a better mate, to be a better person in my relationship. I'm a firm believer that if you don't have a great foundation with
Mhm.
your partner, with your family, or with your loved one, you will not have a stable community.
Most definitely. Mhm.
And if you don't have a stable community, then you will not have a stable nation. And if you don't have a stable nation, then you won't have a stable world. I just believe that as a firm believer. These are the views and opinions of Sean Garvey.
Mhm.
That you have to have a foundation first by loving yourself. That's number one. Loving yourself, in
That's
which
number
Sha'ria
one.
spoke of a few moments ago. Having self love
Mhm.
and having that compassion for other people, but just being a better person. And it all starts at home. And I know we keep saying that, and it's the same thing we keep saying over and over and over again. But it's true. It's
It
true.
is
You
true.
have to
It's
have self
true.
love, and yeah.
It is true. And we do have to have that. And we say it, and it can be cliche, but I want to really bring the awareness of what that is and what that looks like in the journey of finding that, not even finding it because it's in us already. We just don't know how to activate it. But because I've helped myself, others, that we look at that arena of what that is, because when we're better people, then we can, just like you said, Sean, we create better relationships, better communities, and we build a stronger nation together. And so that has to start with the foundation of one, and one is right in here. So if
Mm-hmm.
I bring problems, I bring conflict, I bring my own wounds and my own hurt and my own pain into a relationship, then there cannot be a healthy foundation to build from there.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to the poets that are going to be on the program. We can't name who they
Yes.
are,
Most
but like
definitely.
I said, I know some poets, and Sharia definitely knows some poets,
Yes.
and we're going to get their take on the topics that we're
Mhm.
going to put on the table here. So, with that being said,
Mhm.
Sharia Thomas, go ahead
Yes.
and bless us the mic as we getting ready
Okay.
to close out our very first episode of Love and Poetry. Sharia has
Mhm.
some poems that she will like to recite to you all. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I do. I do. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to share a perspective of, I thought long and hard, which one do I want to start with? And I want to give a take on masculinity and femininity. And so in the past, I've written a poem called Masculinity. And in the past, I've written a poem called The Power Between My Thighs. And so I want to give a snippet of each, because there's a balance that is important, that just I'm glad that I'm with my brother Sean, because we bring an energy of masculinity and femininity, and we can have those and not be. Uh, we can be a man and have some femininity in us. So what I'm saying is we want to have a balance, both, and being able to combine those two actually helps to create that self love within. So I want to share both of them. So, Sean, which one? I'm going to let you decide which one, a snippet of the one on more of the feminine side or the masculine side, do you think?
Let's do the feminine side.
The feminine side.
Let's do that.
Okay. All right. So, as I said, I'm going to only share a snippet. It's a long one. The power between my thighs.
All right.
The power between my thighs. Do you know the power between your thighs, the strength yet tenderness? Do you know where it lies? The canal that leads to your womb, the destination of procreation. I hope you know. I can only assume. So let's not reflect on this organ of glorious splendor, which we should not neglect. We all come from a woman, learn love from a woman. So why this disrespect? Disrespect from our men jumped into bed with them, never really became friends. So now we wonder why. Why did he up and leave? Why did he say goodbye? Well, the power between your thighs you did not realize. I'm gonna stop there.
Mm.
Yes, yes,
Finger
yes.
snaps. Finger
Just a little
snaps.
taste. Just a little taste.
Just a little taste.
Yes, just give them a little taste on that one.
That was beautiful. That was lovely. And
Thank you,
once
thank
again,
you.
remind our listeners the name of the poem.
The power between my thighs.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. Yeah, I love it. I love it. From our very
Yes.
own Sha'ria Thomas right here
Thank you,
on
thank
Love
you.
and Poetry. And what we also want to do,
Mm-hmm.
Sharia, is if we have anybody that is a
Mm-hmm.
poet or wants to share a testimony or send us a letter to us, we're going to create a Gmail for
Okay.
Love and Poetry where all correspondence can be sent to us, loveandpoetry@gmail.com. We're going to work on that this week to where you can send all emails, correspondence, and other things pertaining to love and poetry that you want me and Sharia to share on the platform. We're taking
Yes.
dedications. We're taking
Mm-hmm.
dedications. We're taking testimonials. We're taking love notes that you
Yes.
want us to share and let us express your thoughts through you
And
right
even
here on
Q
Love
and
and
A,
Poetry.
even Q&A, Sean, I would
Yeah,
say just any questions and answers that they would want to know, any questions that they would want us to ask and answer, that we're even receptive and open to that too.
right, right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Definitely, we can't forget that. Sharia Thomas, just to remind you guys that Sharia Thomas is a licensed therapist and life coach. Also.
Mm-hmm.
So any questions you want to ask Sharia, she is here and she is going to take your questions and answer them. So once again, we're going to have the email set up this week to where you can correspond to us, and we'll make sure to uh, address your inquiries and your comments on love and poetry on the next episode.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we are on social media at Sean Garvey ATL on Twitter, Instagram. You can send me your DMs in the meantime, between time, Twitter, Instagram at Sean Garvey ATL. And I am still on Facebook at Sean Garvey. You can find me there. And where can people follow you at, Sharia?
And I am also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at I am Sha'ria Thomas, Sha'ria Thomas. My website, shariathomas.com as well. I do want to share too, Sean, before we close,
Mhm.
is again, like I said, I want to have that balance. And so that was the feminine side. And I want to share masculinity. And that's the
Okay,
actual title of the poem
sure.
as well. Okay. Masculinity, sensitivity, a man with creativity. He excites my mind. He is well defined. His lips, his kiss, I miss. I miss his sexy ass lips. They make me reminisce of the last time I felt them. They were so soft, so sweet, so smooth. I want to stay in his life. Can you get in my groove? I can relate to just saying this is fate. I feel that you are the one, I am your moon, and you are my sun. You dazzle my heart with love, words of love, because you are the only one that I'm thinking of. Your embrace is so warm when you hold me tight. I can just imagine how you will love me all through the night. But let's derive from that because we are more than that. I want to speak on your physique, your voice, just how you are so unique. You are so set apart from all the rest. I feel so secure when I lay on your chest. You are the sweetest man I've ever known. My face lights up when you call me on the phone. Oh, to hear your voice, to hear you moan. I can't wait until that day that we so call bone. But then again, I can wait. I will wait because we have all the time in the world. I am here for you. You are my man and I'm your girl. Moving on because I want you to see just how much you really mean to me. Your voice is so deep. You make me think of the freak that's inside of us both. But this is more than a crush, you see. I've had love before, but this is no more. We've found this. I found this with you. I know that is true. Your uncanny openness warms my heart. At first, I was startled. I knew from the start that you are the man for me. Security, creativity, stability, sensitivity. These are the components of you, your masculinity. I'm down for you. Masculinity.
Mm.
Yes.
You saw the energy that Sha'ria put into that recital. That was so awesome. That was
Oh,
great.
thank
I
you.
love it. Feminine and masculinity. Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it. That's what you're going to hear on Love and Poetry. We're going to have conversations, poets, answers to your questions, and all things considered love, sex, relationships, and poetry. So,
Hmm.
once again, ladies and gentlemen, happy Valentine's Day. You can check us out every other Sunday night at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. We may go a little bit longer because this is a podcast, of course, anything goes. But you can check us out 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Beat Break 87 FM and Reach One Network. We also streaming on all the other podcast platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, as well as iHeart Podcasts. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to download the Podcast FM app to your mobile device. We have it available for both iPhone users as well as Android users. You can go to beatbreakradiofm.com to download the Podcast FM app or to any app marketplace that is available, as well as Amazon. And make sure to leave a review. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Love and Poetry, first episode, the
Yes.
introduction.
Woo!
Finger snap for that.
Snap it
Absolutely.
out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. This is Sean Garvey,
And this is Sha'ria Thomas.
and we will have our first guest on the next podcast on the second episode of Love and Poetry.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. So
Happy
until the next time,
Valentine's Day, everyone.
yes, happy Valentine's Day to everyone, and happy Valentine's Day to you too, Xavier.
To you as well, Sean.
All right, take care.